All right, guys, so yesterday we left off as we poured silicone into our frame that we built around the head. We did have to do that 2 more times. And again, all we did is the same thing before. We mixed more silicone and I had to vacuum it. Always vacuum your silicone. And once it was vacuumed, I just poured some more. You can do that as many times as you need to do it to get these full. It's a lot of silicone in one go. You're gonna have a hard time getting a pot big enough to degas or devacuum that amount of material. From there, it would be nice if you guys would leave them in the freezer until the top starts to get firm, where you can press on it and it doesn't come off on your fingers. The reason that is because we actually want to slow down the chemical reaction of the silicone, so it takes a little longer. We want it to take a little longer because we want to keep that head frozen, and all of that work that we put in articulating our part, we want to keep that frozen so it doesn't shift around. So we need to slow down the silicone kick time. By putting it in the freezer, we not only keep our part frozen, we slow down the kick time. Due to our time constraints here, I took it out a few hours later and let this silicone firm up overnight. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to cut this box off and we're gonna be left with just a big block of silicone. It's gonna be demolding time, so we're gonna be taking the flesh part out of here. I'm gonna back up a little bit. When you pull your head out of the freezer, if it's already kicked all the way, don't start trying to take your head out because it's frozen. You're liable to rip your mold. So make sure that your head inside is completely thawed. Take it out, let it set out, let it stay out for several hours because we want our flesh part to be totally thawed so we can get it out of the mold properly. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this box off, and we'll start demolding and seeing what we're left with. We've got the frame or the dam separated from it. Now we've turned it upside down. From now on, this is gonna be your right side up. You'll be pouring in from this direction. But if you remember, we have the clay right here that we used to bed the head in so we could float it and center it and everything like that, and also help hold it down so it didn't float up in the mold or in the silicone. Now we've got to clean off some of this clay, and I'm gonna start prying this head. It's not a pretty elegant thing. You gotta use some brute force to get these things demolded a little bit. You got hair sometimes that wants to bind up, and the whole purpose of that silicone is to stick to your part. We're gonna get going. With this clay removed, now you can see the fleshy part down in here. If you go to touching on this and it's still frozen, stop what you're doing, let this completely thaw out. We need this completely thawed out. We don't want to be ripping our mold that we've just made because we're trying to pull a frozen head out. Once they thaw out, then they can bend and manipulate back around. We're going to end up cutting this mold in several different ways here in a bit, but I want to be able to get this whole head out. And if you're trying to do it while it's frozen, you're going to have a really hard time getting it out. So now, probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up cutting it down the cheeks a little bit and seeing if I can separate it. All right, so we've got the box removed. I've got the clay removed. I have stuck my hand down in here and freed up my part. I like to go around the edges and kind of pull the head from the silicone back in here, all around it. Try to free it up as best you can. Because the next thing we do, we're gonna have to be a little strategic about it. This is kind of one of the complicated things about the way I do it. We really need to remember, really need to be able to look at our mold and tell which way's up and down and which side's which. You can always tell because where I cut down the bridge of the nose here is right in here. So that gives me a good guideline to go off of. I know where his cheeks are, because the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna start slicing on this mold, and we're gonna start peeling it apart, and I'll take this thing apart pretty well in 3 different sections. Sometimes you even gotta make some little slits in it. We can always put this mold together. If we do this with an X-Acto blade, a sharp blade like this, we're not taking out any materials. I can come through here and slice this mold however I want to. We're not taking out any materials. So what it's gonna do when later on in the casting process is this will pair right back up, okay? And you're not gonna be leaking material. Stuff's not gonna go everywhere. So don't stress about it, but you do need to know the anatomy of your part in there, or how you put it in there. You need to reflect on the pose that you put. Your cuts, where you need to cut, may change a little bit. We can cut anywhere on the exterior portion of the head, as long as we don't cut the inner mouth tissue. 95% of everything that's inner mouth is gonna be in the form of a plug when I cut this apart. So we're not gonna cut into that. The only place you really need to be careful is on the lips on the lower side. We don't wanna be slicing our lips off in 2 places, because if you do see that transition when we put our molds back together, we don't want them on the lips and we don't want them on the interior of the mouth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cutting this apart. This is the top of the head, this is the bottom of the jaw, and these are both sides. I'm gonna run down this cheek right here. I may change it. I'm gonna be looking at my anatomy as I go. That's the whole reason I kind of freed the part up inside to where I could take my hand and roll it around in there, is so I can sit here and pull, slice, and be looking as I peel it, okay? So y'all can kind of watch what I'm doing. And you just apply a little pressure like this, you can start cutting your mold. Now, for intents and purpose of the camera being there, is you can put this right back together, and that seam just pretty well disappears, okay? So y'all don't stress too much. I'm not all the way through, but just look how it goes right back together. We're fine. You're gonna be watching me shake. Gotta apply a little force to manipulate this rubber around a little bit. So we've got that side a little bit. I like to work all the way around it. I like to start one side and then start the other, and this will kind of start peeling this way. It just makes it a lot easier for me. So I'll turn it over here and start doing the same thing to this side. And to be quite honest with you guys, almost the worse your cut is, don't worry about making it super straight. It's all gonna pair back up. Almost the more uneven your cuts are, the easier that thing, when you put it back together, it wants to lock in place. It'll go right back together like a puzzle and just seal itself. So don't get too wound up in trying to make perfect cuts. Making your perfect cuts is making sure you don't get inside the inner mouth material. You guys can see it start to peel right there. With a long fillet knife, if your walls are thick, you can use other things like a long fillet knife, whatever it is. You just don't want to have anything that's taking out material. It needs to be slices with a blade, a knife blade of some sort. Open this up a little bit. What I'm doing is kind of sticking my finger down in there a little more to help me free it up. Trying to pop that chin out. All right. That looks like we did a pretty good job. Okay, yeah, I think that's gonna look good. We'll be able to pin these up so we can work. Kind of inspecting my mold here, making sure it took all the detail. My front teeth look really good. Really like that. Okay, yeah, that looks really good. We're gonna go with this. So let me explain a little bit why I did some of the things that I did. For one, later on you're gonna learn, I'm gonna teach you why I like to keep this all in one piece versus a top piece and a bottom piece. When we're layer casting, if you've got a top and a bottom piece and you're trying to paint colors, you're gonna have a hard line where those two pair up. This way we can layer cast all together and we don't have to worry about that issue. And then you'll see how I remove this from a mold later. So I like to, again, I stayed out of the inner mouth tissue, which is all of this, and the side lips here. I went above the nostrils. Typically, if he was, say, like a panting pose or something like that, I may go below the nostrils. With this one, I wasn't quite sure, to be honest with you, where I was at, so I went a little high versus going too low and accidentally getting inside the inner mouth tissue. So I went a little high, which is fine. It's gonna look good. We can pin these up out of the way so we can get down in there with a paintbrush and work. And again, on the bottom lip, I stay quite a distance away from the inner mouth, or the lip line that it is on the external part of the head. So now what we can do is figure out what's which here. And I believe this is the bottom. That's gonna set back down on there just like this. The top will go, oop, I got it upside down. The top will go back on here just like this, and we will have a nice piece. And even if our seams are evident in our part, they're not gonna be evident on any part of it that matters. It's all gonna be external. All that's gonna get sanded down and made to shape and to fit the form you're working on, so we don't gotta worry about that there. But you will hardly even be able to see them there. So I think we've got a good run at this, and I'm pretty happy with it. All right, guys, we got these laid out in 3 different pieces. As you can tell, they are nasty. They've got clay, everything all over the place. There's blood from your head. We can't do anything with this right now. They have to get absolutely clean. We need to take them to the sink. I like to degrease them. I take Dawn, I take a scrubber brush. You can scrub on these real good, toothbrush, whatever you need to do, but they go to the sink, they're gonna get Dawn, they're gonna get scrubbed real good. I am not gonna do anything with these until I make sure they are absolutely clean. I don't want any of this dirt and debris inside my final part. It'll just ruin the whole thing. Another thing is, after you clean, they need to be dry. You can't have any moisture in your molds, or your plastic is hydrophobic and you're gonna have air bubbles in it. So after you clean them, you gotta dry, 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 dry. Once they're completely dry, then we're ready to do something with it. All right, now let's talk about teeth. We're gonna mold and cast our teeth the same way that we did the mouth. I have taken the head over there. It's of no use to us anymore. So I went ahead and took it to the bandsaw, and I separated all the teeth just like this from the head. What I do need to do is I need to simmer these in a pot to where the gum lines will recede, and we can peel all this flesh off of here. That way we can set these up in a mold or in a box, and we can mold them in the same way. Another reason I do this is you really do need to simmer them, even if you could pull these out and drop them in the mold. We don't want to do that. They have a little bit of a pink hue from being dead. By putting them in a pot, letting them simmer for a while, that pink, that's blood, so that will draw back down, and it won't be in the teeth anymore. So we need that gone. That's the sign of death, and we're not trying to recreate that. We want this thing as alive as possible. So that's the next step, is I'm gonna put these in a pot. I'm gonna let them simmer and do kind of like you do a gyro, and just work it off there a little bit at a time, making sure it's not too hot. We're gonna get these cleaned up. We're gonna get them in a little frame, and we're gonna pour some silicone on them. The difference with these versus our mouth is we're not gonna need to freeze these. This isn't gonna have to go in the freezer. This is rigid stuff. I'm gonna use the same silicone. I could actually use platinum cured silicone. It's not gonna matter, but since I got a bunch of it, I just use the same silicone, and we can pour it straight on the teeth after we get them bedded, same way we did the mouth. Set it over somewhere in the room, and 3, 4, 5 hours later, that silicone's gonna be kicked, and it's gonna be set up, and we'll be able to demold these and make brand new teeth. All right, since we've got everything cleaned up, we've got our teeth cleaned up, I've taken them, I've simmered them down. Again, you can see the gum line's been removed, so we'll have a full gum line in our plastic part, place for our plastic to go to. They'll look real nice and pretty. just cleaned them up really good. I do something that's probably a little different than what you would think, and I do separate the teeth out of the front of the jaw individually, and I line them up just like this in the order that they were in the jaw. You can just see here that now I know which tooth is what. It gets kind of complicated or kind of difficult on the outer teeth to remember which ones are which. They're all close to the same size, but they do have a little bit of a different turn on them and things like that. So we want to keep those in place, and I just keep them in order just like this. Now we're ready to go ahead and, well, I'll back up. Those are really easy to separate. Boil them out, take all that skin off, and they will literally just pop right out like this. They have a root on them that's a little long. Keep that root on there so you can bed it into the clay, and that'll get you a good place to pour your plastic when you get your mold here. We don't need to chill this. I've already mixed some silicone. Once I bed these teeth, we're gonna get to pouring, and the next thing you know, we'll be pouring plastic. See if I can make these fit good. Looks pretty good. Those shouldn't float to the top. We wouldn't want that to happen, so make sure you get them in there nice and tight. We don't want them to float to the top of your silicone. Now that they're in there good, we'll start pouring some silicone. We'll have nice teeth molds, and now this way we can pour 100 mouths if we can get 100 mouths out of this mold. We won't be able to. I would suggest recasting after that, but this is a good start. We'll have our teeth molds for this, and I'll just pop them right down in the mold every time. It'll just be like using the real teeth. So. All right, so we're about done here. I like to get a little extra coating on the teeth. Make sure you keep going even after the teeth disappear in case it settles down some or it shifts, and you don't want your teeth popping up through there because you'll just have to add more silicone. So I'm about done. This will set to the side. This doesn't have to go into the freezer. Remember, the teeth are rigid. They don't need to be frozen. And since I'm not putting this in the freezer to slow down the kick of this silicone, I bet within an hour or two, the silicone will be pretty hard. Maybe within about 3 or 4 hours, it's gonna be ready to demold. We'll just demold it in the morning, take a look at it, make some teeth, and get ready to rock and roll on our initial molds over there.
If you like this video, like it here on YouTube, and subscribe to the Mote's Taxidermy YouTube channel. If you have any questions about this content, check out the Facebook group Mote-Casting, Casting in Layers, Questions and Answers. Thanks for watching.